All right, the last time Silver Heels was taken out, it seems like we had a little issue with the tape over here. My hand is. And that is ripped off. So I'm gonna have to fix that today. I think I have all the things I need on board. So I'm gonna go down and take a look, see if I have what I need, and we'll try to fix that. The webbing that was connecting the Slug to the mainsail failed here, and it looks like it kind of sawed through over time. It is an old end-of-life mainsail. These Slugs are designed to fail before the sail actually rips, so it's fine that I had a failure here. In this case, this was attached to an attachment point at the head of the sail. It was a metal attachment point. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this gate off up here. So we're going to take that off, and we're going to take that slider out so that we can more easily reattach it. There we go. Okay, so now we'll look to see if we have what we need to fix this. So we're in the bow, in the V-berth area. And, oh. Yep. I think we're gonna find what we need in here. Now let's take a look in here and see if we got what we need to fix this thing. Okay. Beautiful. We've got thread, got sail patch, we've got this. This is perfect. This webbing is what we're going to use to fix that. Oh, we need some needles. All we need some needles. That's it. Let me look for those. And we have needles. So this is perfect. We've got our artificial palm there. We've got needles. We've got thread. We've got everything we need to fix that baby. Very excited. So let's go over some of the tools that you would need to make this repair. I've got the kit here that came straight from the boat. And opening this up, we've got a pair of scissors, which you can use to cut the webbing. You got to have extra webbing to attach the Slug to the sail. Here's the old Slug, so we're going to need a new Slug to replace that. There's a new Slug. We've got new Slugs available, replacement Slugs. I keep a bunch of those on the boat. Some needles to do the sewing. A sail maker's palm, which you use to push the needle through. You put the end of the needle right there and you push on it. You apply pressure because, you know, a needle head is going to be difficult to push without some sort of solid surface, right? If you don't have a sailmaker's palm, you can use a set of pliers. Push on the head of the needle with the pliers to help push that needle through, and then you can grab onto the needle on the back end with the plier grips. That is a little bit slower of a process to accomplish. You'd want this thread breaker, which basically removes the threads. It's kind of got a sharp piece here, and you would cut into the existing threads to break them out. You need waxed twine, which you're going to use to sew the new webbing onto the Slug. And a knife is always going to be handy. But it is kind of hard to film and work on it at the same time. But I've got the needle and thread here, and I'm going to show you behind me that I've got this guy pretty much on here, double wrapped, and I'm just going to secure this right here. I'm going to sew that together. So when I did this repair, I was very focused on the amount of webbing needed and the number of wraps around. This is basically 2 full wraps around with the end pieces also in the stitching. And I accomplished that. I actually did the same thing on the new repair ad hoc. But what I didn't pay close attention to was the stitching itself. And I just kind of did. So I just basically put the needle and thread through that tape a few times, then wrapped it around, then throw the needle through the thread through once, wrap it around a few more times, did that again. I think it's pretty well reinforced. I'll do this a couple more times and then clean it off. But this is only like a 15-minute project, so, well, maybe 30, because, you know, I don't do this all the time. That, I think it's going to hold fine, but I found afterwards on YouTube that this way of stitching is a better way of doing it, which is basically you go through the middle of the webbing and then you go down to one side and then you go through the middle of the webbing and you go around the other side as well. And you just repeat that process, or you do say 10 stitches on one side and then 10 stitches on the other. That is perhaps a more secure method of stitching the webbing onto the slug and holding that webbing fast between the slug and the sail grommet or the head of the sail. So I've just cut a piece of webbing which is more than enough than what I need, and that's fine to start. I've got plenty of webbing, so to have a little overage is fine. And one little tool I forgot to mention is a torch, like a butane torch. Comes in very handy on a boat when you're dealing with either line or really almost anything. And because I just did a fresh cut on this webbing and I don't want it to come out, I'm going to use the torch and just basically melt the ends so that this webbing doesn't fray or just let itself out on the end. So torches, in this case a butane torch, is very handy to have on the boat. And you can see, because a lot of these lines and webbings, they're made of synthetic materials and they just easily coagulate and laminate under heat. So now that we have this, we've got a new slug, and we're going to wrap this through the slug. And we're going to have to wrap it around something, right? So I got a hold of this little post. Okay, now that we have this wrap, we're going to wrap it around what might be our pretend grommet, right, in the sail. We're going to wrap it through that grommet, and then we're going to wrap it through the slug. And I'm going to use this set of pliers to push that webbing through so I can pull it out on the other side. Easy enough. I just did that. And now I've got one complete turn. I'm going to do a second turn now. And I'm going to pull this relatively taut. I'll give it a little bit of play because in a normal case, we'd have a little bit of play here. But now I'll feed it through a second time underneath itself. And again, I'm going to use those pliers to push the webbing through to the other side. I'm sure you get the idea. Just to have a tool that helps you kind of move this along, it's going to make it easier and quicker to get done. And I know firsthand because on site, I did not have a pair of pliers up there, and it took me a lot longer to feed the end of that webbing through the slug. You can see here, it's come right through now, and voila. So we've got our slug double wrapped with some extra. The end of the webbing is extra on either side, and this is our start. So now all we're going to have to do is sew this in place. All right, so here is this waxed twine or waxed thread. It's very strong, and I'm going to take about 6 feet or 2 meters, and that should be enough to go with here. I'm basically looking at something that facilitates my height, which is about 6 foot. And maybe I went a little over, that's fine. So now I cut that off, and we're going to thread this needle. We're going to get the thread through the needle, and sometimes a threader will help with this, but I got it through pretty easy. When it's waxed, it's easier to handle. And now I'm going to secure it with like a figure-8 knot on this end. And don't judge me on my knot tying here. It may be more or less a square knot. And of course that twine is slippery, right? And we can further secure that by simply using that torch. All right, that's secured. Now we're going to take our webbing. We're going to take our sailmaker's palm. We're going to put that on. And we've got this double-ended, so we're going to basically put 2 stitches for every pass through instead of just 1 stitch. Here you go. And I'm going to use this sailmaker's palm to push completely through the center of this webbing and bring it all the way through. There you go. And then I'm going to go underneath and just repeat that 5 times. Right now it's going through pretty easy. So I'm not needing that. And there, that's the first one. I'm going to pull that real tight as I can. And I don't really need the palm yet. As I start feeling resistance, I will use it. Okay, and that was down below. I've done 2 down below, so now I'm going to do 2 up above. So now I'm going to detach this just for the purposes of demonstrating to you what comes next. I'm going to pull this off and just imagine this is still attached. And what we're going to do now to secure this knot is we're going to push the thread through horizontally underneath the thread. So if I was sewing in one direction around, now I'm kind of going through it horizontally. There we go, see? I'm going to pull this through, and I'm going to do a half hitch. I'm going to pull that through and do a half hitch to help secure that knot. And I'm going to do that again on the other side. I'm going to bring the needle underneath the stitching and then back out the other side. Oop. There we go. There you go. You can see, I'm going to bring it through, but I'm going to do another half hitch like this. Now this time I'm keeping it. Half hitching. There we go. Okay, so now maybe I'm going to bring it through itself one more time and secure it. Now I'm just going to do a little knot to tie it off. We're going to take the scissors, we're going to cut the thread down relatively short. And then we're going to take that torch and secure it. This time paying a little more attention not to burn ourselves. And I'm going to secure it over here on this side. Oops. It does get hot quick. And our torch went out. All right, but you can see now that this looks pretty secure compared to the old one. This may have more wraps through it, but this looks pretty similar, and I'm happy with that. I think that'll hold. I think that's the way I would do more repairs. And please, if you disagree or you have better experience, please leave a comment. And I would add this, there are other techniques. I'm not an expert, I'm just a sailor that has to learn a lot of things and has to make a lot of things work. And to be able to fix your sail slugs on the fly is a useful skill to have. So I just wanted to share this with you. Like I said, when I did it on the fly, I didn't do it as well as I feel like I should have. And I'm going over with you how I think I should have done it. I will say this too, is that I've seen other techniques where not only is the stitching done on the webbing between the grommet and the sail, but I've also seen stitching done into the sail. And that's going to keep this thing from, it's going to make it play a lot less, right? These are, this webbing is sewed into the sail itself, it'll make it much stronger and it will decrease the amount of play that you would have. I would point out that one thing I failed to do is cut this last piece off. Okay. And again, we're going to use a torch to secure that end so it doesn't fray out. And on a boat, I always have backups. So if one thing fails, not only will I have fuel for that lighter, but I'll also have a second lighter. So if you're a sailor, you'll find that having backups to everything handy and on hand is extremely important. So you can see how I just melted this end, and that's going to basically laminate it so that it doesn't fray. Okay, for repairs for the day is kind of nice. So now I'll just put it back in the track and make sure it works. Okay, I want to thank my subscribers. I really appreciate your support. If you have stayed through to the end of this video, I would really appreciate it if you would press that like button. It really helps the channel grow. This is Sailor Eric. Thanks for watching.